Welcome again to the Stay Juicy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Arianna, and today is a special day because guess what, y'all? It's my birthday. It's my birthday. It's my birthday. And this podcast is going to be a little different. We're going to be doing a little freestyle. I want to share some thoughts on turning 59 and some of the lessons that I've learned over this year. And I'm excited to share with you. Gotta say, turning 59 has been interesting. I'm not going to lie. When I first was thinking about my 58th birthday, I was fine. And then I started thinking about, are you turning 59? And then all I could think was 59 is 1 year from 60 and 60 is 10 years from 70. And I'm just like, I'm not ready, but I'm really trying to embrace this. And I was listening to something today, actually, and they were saying that how women in their 60s are saying like, this is actually the best decade. I'm like, okay, which really, the point that they were also bringing home was that the way we think about our aging is the way we're going to age, right? So if you're thinking about turning 59 or 60 or whatever it is, or even 40, whatever age that maybe you're dreading, it's really going to speak to the experience that you're going to have. And that is just such a metaphor for life in general. I am going to be getting philosophical on y'all today, but I, really have been giving so much thought to the impact of our thoughts on so much of how our life is experienced and how we really do get to create our own lives. And it only starts with what we believe. And so many examples I can think of recently of how my thought system, my belief system really had everything to do with how I navigated that situation and the outcome of that situation. It even goes back to my childhood, which I'm not going to, maybe I'll get that deep later, but it's really been interesting. I'm reading the book now by Mel Robbins called Let Them. And I was a little skeptical on this book because she has offered some other solutions around life. Like, I think it's like the 1, 2, 3 rule or something like that. And, they were a little simplistic for me. And I thought, I don't know, that works for a minute for some things, but it just wasn't sustainable. But I thought, oh, I don't know about this Let Them, but I feel like it was something I definitely, if I could use, if this information was of value for me, I definitely wanted it. And so I'm so glad I'm listening to it on Audible. And it's everything that we already know. Like, it's everything. But sometimes, you just got to hear something. Somebody just has to say it in a certain way for it to just really pop. And for you to be like, yes, I'm doing that. So hopefully some words that I say today will pop for you. And if not my words, you find those words that help to move you to the next level, because we're here to inspire each other and to lift each other up and to move to that next level. But sometimes we get stuck, and sometimes it's really nice to hear that we're not alone. So on my birthday, I decided that I wanted to just share some thoughts. I will say this is going to be the last podcast of this season. I'm going to step back. I'm going to regroup. I'm going to get organized. I have some great ideas what I want to do going forward. I will tell you in full transparency and honesty that, I've had this idea for a podcast for years. I don't know if I was afraid to do it, if I just didn't feel like I had enough time, or I was just like thinking, well, is it going to be good enough or whatever? And so I'm so grateful for those of you who have reached out. Please continue to share the podcast with your friends and to listen. Please like on YouTube, like it on Spotify or all the channels. All of that makes a difference. I try not to get too caught up in it, but it also inspires me when I know that other people are listening. And I will say, sometimes I have my own imposter syndrome. Sometimes people will come to me and say, I just listened to your podcast. I'm like, really? You listen? And I'm like, oh my God, okay, yes, people are listening. You're doing this. It's happening. Sometimes it's just, you just got to jump. And even though you don't know what the hell you're doing, I'm pretty good for jumping and not knowing what the hell I'm doing and figuring out as I go. And that's what my business has been. That's what this podcast has been. It's kind of what my life has been, and it's mostly served me. Sometimes it's better to have a plan, I'm sure, but sometimes when there's something I feel like that's just in you and it needs to come out, there's something you need to do, but we're thinking about what other people are thinking or what's it going to look like or all of the things. And it's like, and that little gnawing, it's not going to go away until you do that thing. So whatever that thing is for you, whether it's finally writing that book or signing up for the course or putting yourself out there as this person that does whatever it is that you know you're good at doing. And sometimes it's just us hearing that feedback. Like for me, sometimes the only way I can go forward is because intellectually I know that I'm doing this thing. I know that I'm providing a service. But sometimes I need to hear from other people like that it matters to them. Because sometimes we just get caught up in wondering like, well, is this any of this what I'm doing matters? Is anybody listening? Is anybody paying attention? Or am I helping? Am I making a difference? And so I would argue that we're all making a difference. We're all doing our things, but sometimes it's great to hear from another person that, at a boy, at a girl, keep at it. And so that's why I'm so grateful. And that's why I think friendships, female friendships in particular, are so important because so many of my friends have just lifted me up and inspired me when I just didn't have it for myself. Like sometimes your friends are just there to reflect and be honest for you, even when you can't see it for yourself. Even if you don't believe it, hey, all these people are telling me it must be true. So I'm just going to keep moving. And so that has honestly been the case for me in so many scenarios. I know that I have a gift, as I know we all do. Sometimes we doubt that gift. And I say, embrace it, take that gift bull by the horns and figure out what you came here to do with it. This is why this part of life is I think, so amazing. It's a time when we get to really explore our gifts. We get to take that time and figure out what it is. What did you come here to do? And so I'm in another phase right now. And if sound like I'm rambling today, I probably am because I'm just sharing some thoughts. And this, like I mentioned, will be the last podcast of this season until I come back with more guests, more insights, more information. But I wanted to just end this season with my thoughts and my reflections. And if you haven't listened to the first episode of The Scorpion Promises Transformation, where I kind of talk about the time in my life, I was 39 years old and I was actually entering into perimenopause and going through this transition, had no idea what was going on. I was blowing up my life in certain areas. And I didn't really realize that I was going through this transition. I look back and I'm like, that's when it all started. And this is all the things that I was doing. And now 20 years later at 59, I'm going through another transition. And this is why I say to you all, it's about the journey. It is not the destination. There is no destination. You are constantly changing. We are constantly evolving and it's full of twists and turns and WTFs, like what is going on here? But it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be here another year. I will say turning 59 I was like, I don't know about how I feel about this one. Because 59 is a year from 60. And all my friends, I'm a year younger than most of my friends, and they're all turning 60. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I'm 60. 60, that's 10 years from 70. That don't make no sense. But here we are. And I had to just be reminded that, nothing is promised. And also what I've heard, and I'm really going to hold on to this one because I need to hear it and I need to believe it, is that entering into your 60s is really one of the best decades. Like, who knew? 50s is good, but I heard the 60s were even better. So I know I'm not in my 60s yet. I know I tend to go a little further, but I just see myself like queuing up for this new decade. And I'm like, okay, what does this look like? And I want to be so much more intentional than I was in the past. I think in the past, as I've mentioned, I've kind of been like, okay, let's do it and see what happens. But this one, I'm just like, I want to really think about this. I really want to think about what it is I want to see in myself, what it is I want to do. I was actually at a conference this past weekend and there was this woman on stage that was in her 80s and she was just going on talking. This is a business conference, Enterprising Women's Business Conference, which is an amazing conference that I love. The women were truly inspiring, but what really inspired me was seeing some of those women that were doing all the things at 80 plus. And it just spoke to the very real idea that whatever we believe is really what we're going to experience and see. And so what we believe about aging is what our experience of aging is going to be. And so I'm really trying to shift this narrative. I'm trying to shift how I'm thinking about some things because it's real, right? It's there. But I hear 60s are amazing. So I'm going to be queuing it up for the sixth decade. I'll probably have a big party or do something because I need to celebrate, as we all do, celebrating another year. But anywho's, like I said, I'm going to probably be going on a couple of tangents on this podcast, but I want to share some of my deep thoughts and first and foremost share my gratitude for my friends, the girlfriends in particular who've just inspired me, lifted me up, kept me going. I tell people I love my husband, I love my kids, they're all wonderful in my life, but my girlfriends and really my staff, Kathy and Brandy in particular, who have just really supported me through this business transition and all the things, and all of my staff that are there at Tula Wellness. I could not do any of this without them. They make me look really good. And despite all of my things, they're just there for me. I had a meeting last week with Kathy, and Kathy she's the one who edits all of the podcasts. She does all the social media posts. She responds to all the emails. She reminds me about doing all the things. And thank you, Kathy, again. But I called a meeting with them. I'm like, we need a meeting. It's important. I need to talk about this. And they're like, okay. And basically I had just decided that, I had another idea, which I get these ideas and then I want to share them. I tend to have ideas, but then I don't always follow through because I'll say I'm going to do something. And then it's like, I'm the visionary, but don't ask me about the details. So I'm so thankful that I have people that can help with the details. But we had this meeting and basically really what it was me recognizing that, you know what? I really am a businesswoman. This is really happening. I really need to put some very actionable steps in place. And this is a direction that I want to go. And even though I've said this on different levels, I feel like it's just finally sinking in, right? Because when I started this practice, literally, I was kind of running away from something else. I did not start Tula with any vision outside of I'm a gynecologist. I should be able to put up a single, women will come, and worst case scenario, I'll see some patients. Like that's really how I was thinking. And then fast forward 12 years and, now we are doing weight loss and I've been into the aesthetic field and just all the things that if you had asked me 12 years ago about some Botox or doing vaginal rejuvenation, I would have been like, girl, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And now I'm like, wow, this has really evolved. And I would not say that this is the way I wanted to have evolved, but it's how it happened. But I want to be more intentional in the next 12 years, right? Not just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I'm glad that things are working out. And I appreciate all the people who have been here to support me get through this. I want to be more intentional about the next few years and really question and ask you about what is it that you need to start being intentional about, because we don't want life to just happen to us. Sometimes it does just happen, but sometimes we can obviously think about where is that direction? What is the compass? What is your North Star? Like, where are we going? And so this has been the perpetual question for me, especially since I've left high risk OB and I started this practice. And so it's taken me all this time to really accept that, okay, you're a businesswoman. Like when I tell you I didn't understand business, someone literally, when I started the business, they were asking me about my exit strategy. And I was honestly offended because I thought they were asking me about an exit strategy so that I could prepare for failure. But that was so far from what they were trying to explain to me. I was just that young and dumb and had no idea that the exit strategy was really like, where do you want this to go? And what are those steps beyond that? And so I'm so grateful that I figured that out. I had to call them back and say, you know what? I was really sorry. I was offended by him. I thought, again, he was questioning my capability. And no, he was really thinking about what's your exit strategy. And that was probably a compliment to even call me up and to have the conversation. But my filter was, he thinks that I can't do this. And it's so important to understand how our filter truly affects everything and how we see the world. And I've had so many examples, especially in the last several months, of realizing that my filter has caused me to think a certain kind of way. And that means that everything that you say to me or this person says to me, and we all have filters, right? We have filters for different people. My filter, for example, with my father is a certain filter. So everything he says, it doesn't really matter what he says because it's going through this filter and I'm taking it some kind of way. But to be able to finally take away your filter and just hear and not take it personally, not assume anyone's saying anything negative or doubting you or all the things, and to be able to just listen and to take in the information. It's taken me a long time to mature enough to be able to do that. And the book that I'm reading, the Mel Robbins book, Let Them, has really been a game changer for me because, again, it's everything that we already know, but sometimes just saying things in a certain way and realizing that, people are gonna not like you. People are gonna think you maybe sound a certain kind of way, or some people are gonna think whatever. And we have no control. We have no control over what anybody thinks about us at the end of the day. And this could not be more true. I mean, I knew this when I was 16, 17 years old. I remember being in college, and there were these two girls in college that were from St. Louis. And I, noticed that they just didn't like me and they wouldn't speak to me. They were just looking at me some kind of way. And I remember asking somebody, like, why don't they like me? And they said, they don't like the way you walk. They don't like the way you talk. They don't like the way you dress. And I was like, well, and that's when it hit me, like, well, I can't do anything about all those things. This is how I walk, and this is how I talk, and this is how I'm going to dress. And so that was the moment when I realized that, some people are just not going to like you even before you open up your mouth. But that still didn't take away this kind of wanting people to like you. Figure, like, well, why doesn't she like me? I've been nice to her. Like, what did I do to her? But realizing that it's just not even about you. Like, it's not about you. And so, again, hopefully for most of you guys, you already figured this out. But if you haven't, I highly encourage reading that book. I'm listening to it, like I said, on Audible, because it's really I'm really getting the message. And even at 59, I still need this message. So what I want to talk about today. I love this time of year because people joke with me, but honestly, March 31st is the new year for me. It is the official end of winter. It is the spring for me. And it represents my rebirth. It represents my kind of re-entry into the world. It's kind of like, okay, what are we doing this time? And so I find myself at the same point I was at 39, kind of like, what's next? I spent 20 years doing high risk obstetrics and have impacted many lives and had so much just gratifying experiences. And then I started Tool Wellness. It's been 12 years. I get it, but I've since been like, I think I'm good. I think it's time for me to stop seeing patients one on one. I really am trying to figure out how to take this message to a bigger level to impact more women. And what's next for me? I don't know. Like, there's no script that's written. And I like a script. I like direction. I like to know where we're supposed to be going. And so with this, there is no script. With life, there is no script. I think in medicine, it's easy because it's like, okay, you go to school and then you go to do your residency and then you do your fellowship and then you work. But what happens when you do something different? What happens when you decided that I don't want to do this anymore? And so many of us at this age, whether it's in your 40s and your 50s, you've reached the peak of your career. Maybe you've just been doing something for a long time. And I see this time and time again with patients in the clinic. It's like they're ready to do something new. They're ready to explore. They're ready to express themselves differently. And so this is what this time of year really represents for me. It's me kind of contemplating my life and preparing myself for what the next phase is. And I don't really know what it is. And that's kind of fun, but kind of not so fun. So I really would like a playbook. I really would like a map, but we don't get a map. We get to map it out ourselves. But this year has really not been an exception. I've been deep in the weeds. Actually, this entire year, just been doing the work. Let me tell you, the work's not fun. It's not sexy. But what has this work been? It's been really the work of recognizing that you are actually an adult. Believe it or not, I'm like, no, you really are. This adulting is real. And what are we really doing? Personal growth does not just come. I think it requires the work. It requires the intention of growing. And so if you're finding yourself in this state of, well, I'm not sure what I want to do next, or you're in situations or relationships that aren't serving you anymore, it's time to do the work. And what does the work look like? For me, the work is sometimes just writing in my journal. Sometimes it's a prayer. Sometimes it's a prayer in my journal. This year, I've had a huge milestone of really letting go of a relationship that I have had since high school. And, it's without getting into the details. Bottom line is that I felt a certain kind of way. There really wasn't a full closure. At least in my mind, there wasn't. I think there was a closure a long time ago, but in my mind, there wasn't a closure. and there was a connection. And I don't know, I wish I could explain it better. But the bottom line is, I knew that thinking about this person, just this whole situation, that relationship, like I knew it wasn't serving me. It wasn't even anything that I wanted, but it was just in my head. And it was really an easy fallback of something comfortable to just think about. And so sometimes we just got to be okay with like shedding what feels super comfortable, super familiar, and just be like, you know what? This isn't serving me. And me insisting on involving myself in this or allowing it to be, it's not serving me. And I feel like it's keeping me from really experiencing my full potential. And when I tell you it's taken me years to just peel all of that off and be okay and to find that closure. But what that required was prayer and journaling and literally asking the universe to just please release me from these thoughts, from this person, because I know it's not serving me, but for some reason it's just in my head. And I think what it did was just allow me to kind of fantasize about other things instead of really thinking about what the next steps were for me, instead of really walking in to my own greatness, instead of really tapping into my potential. I'm just kind of in this familiar state of, I don't even know what you want to call it because it didn't make any sense. But let me just tell you, it's huge. It's so huge. And I know if nothing else, if I didn't gain anything from the year, just being able to let go of some old thought patterns and to release yourself. So I would ask you, what are some of those thought patterns that are not serving you? What are the relationships that aren't serving you? What are the situations? Maybe that job. What is it time to move towards? What is it time to move away from? And there's nothing that takes a place of doing that work. It's not sexy. It's not necessarily fun, but it's really important to be able to go back and look and see how you've grown and matured. And like I said, exactly 20 years ago, I was in the same place, wondering what my next steps were going to be. I was questioning kind of where and how I belong in this world. And this time I've had the benefit of looking back over these 20 years, raising children, staying married, building a business, retiring from maternal fetal medicine, and embarking in a new world. And despite what all of you all see on the social media feeds and even in this podcast, I have to work every day to still resist this imposter syndrome, to resist asking myself the question, do I belong here? Am I supposed to be doing this? Am I good enough to be doing this? Literally, when I was at this last conference, Enterprising Women's Conference last week, I had to really just give myself a pep talk and tell myself, you belong in this room. But when I tell you I'm in the room with women that are running multi-million-dollar companies, and some days I walk in these rooms and I don't even understand what the hell they are saying. They're literally speaking a different language. I did not go to business school. I don't understand a lot of these concepts. And I've had to just really dive in. And sometimes frankly, I'm an imposter because I don't know what the hell is going on. And so over the years, when, I've either gotten awards for business or women of impact, sometimes I'm just like, why did they pick me? Why did they do that? Don't they know I don't really know all of this stuff? And so even me, even running a business, even being in the room, being able to be in the room with these women, I have to ask myself sometimes, do you belong in this room? Yes, you do. And even if I don't believe I belong in this room, I've just gotten to the point now where I just got to tell myself, you belong in this room. And I have to also just listen to what other people are telling me, because what I'm telling myself isn't necessarily in alignment with what other people seem to believe I belong in the room. Other people are telling me this. So I'm just going along with it some days. Like, okay, she thinks I belong here. She thinks this, she thinks that. So where is that disconnect? And so I would encourage you to listen to your friends, especially if they're telling you good things about you. If they're not telling you good things, then I'm going to say don't listen. But if people are telling you you're great at this, you're good doing that, I'm looking forward to this, and your involvement in this, then receive that and know that you belong in these rooms. And whatever it is that you are thinking about as your next step, just do it. Just jump. Is it terrifying? Yes. Some days it's absolutely terrifying. And I'm not saying that you should not have some level of organization or some intention around it, but sometimes you just got to jump. That's what I've had to do with this podcast. That's what I've had to do with starting a business. I have no idea what the next steps necessarily are, but I just knew that there was that gnawing of, if you don't do this, like, I'm just not comfortable anymore. And so sometimes the pain and the discomfort of not doing something, once that weighs heavier than your fear of what may happen or what you're going to look like or all the things, just listen to that. And sometimes that's what it takes, discomfort enough. So maybe there's a situation. I find this so often with patients, whether they're in a marriage, in a job, in situations where they're just not comfortable anymore and they're suffering. And so much of that suffering is because it's like holding on to a hot pot. You know that pot is hot. You know you need to let it go, but you are not willing to do the work to let it go. And I promise you, I have not met a woman who has not left a relationship, left a job, or made a shift that has regretted it. I haven't met that woman. I tell you, I have women coming to my office. One woman in particular, I think I've mentioned her on this podcast before. She is in her late 60s and she was in a toxic relationship for years, like, I don't know, 40 years, some insane amount of years. She was married with kids. And she would come in and she was, she was miserable, really. And she left. She finally left. And, there's so many times where I've seen women in situations and I can't say, girl, you need to get out of there. I can't say that. I want to say that some days, but I don't say it. But I just pray for them. And I just pray that they get the strength to do whatever it is they need to do. And let me tell you, she has come back into my office. And when I tell you she is skipping, girlfriend got her a new lover. She's feeling herself. And when I tell you she walks in the office with a whole different energy. And yes, she suffered for a while before she finally got the courage to leave. And there were a lot of reasons why. Financially, just what does it look like after all this time? But she left and she's happy and she's content that she is going to live the last few decades of her life happy, doing what she wants to do, loving herself and being loved by someone who values her. And so I'm not suggesting, especially if you're going through perimenopause and you're hating your husband right now, don't leave. Get that stuff fixed. And if you still are hating somebody and want to go, then that's another story. But I also have patients that have come in, one in particular, who she was having all the symptoms, feeling all the feels. On top of that, she was like, I hate my husband and I want a divorce. I said, oh, okay. Well, how long have you been feeling like you want a divorce? Oh, about 6 months. Okay. And how long you been married? Oh, like, I don't know, it was like 18 years, a long time. I said, okay, I tell you what, you got a lot of symptoms going on right now, perimenopause. We're going to get you treated. We're going to get everything good to go. And then we're going to come back in 3 months. And if you still want to divorce your husband, then let's talk about it. But don't do anything just yet. Sure enough, she comes back 3 months later. And when I tell you, she's feeling great. She's like, no more hot flashes. She feels good. She's thinking clearly. She's sleeping. And I was like, okay, so do you still want to divorce your husband? And she looks at me and she literally is like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, 3 months ago, you said you wanted to divorce your husband. I have it written here. She's like, no, I didn't say that. I said, yeah, actually you did, because I don't write things down unless you say them. And I write them down because I know I'm not going to remember. So I specifically have here, she wants to divorce her husband. We will check in 3 months. So we laughed and chuckled a little bit about it. But the point goes both ways. If you're going through some crazy stuff right now, not a good time to make big life decisions. I promise you, done that, blown up a few things. It's not fun. It's not pretty. Sometimes you do got to blow up some things, I will say. Sometimes it's funner that way. But I'm telling you from some experience that you don't have to blow things up. You need to be intentional and thoughtful and recognize where you are emotionally, hormonally, in all of this, because your hormones are definitely, some days it is the tail wagging the dog. So that said, it goes both ways. I digress. Anywho's, how am I wrapping this up? Listen, I'm grateful for another year. I'm grateful for all of you who have tuned in and listened. Like I said, I started this podcast with my own doubts and questions, and I've been so pleasantly surprised, even having imposter syndrome in this area, because people will come up to me now and be like, hey, I listened to the podcast. I'm like, oh, okay, you're listening. This is awesome. And just being able to say, yeah, you did that. So sometimes you got to jump. We got to push past whatever that fear and that doubt is. And this is a season to really tap into whatever your heart is really telling you to do. And if you're scared, if you're fearful, ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And then go do it anyway. This is why this point in time in life is so significant. Absolutely. It's time to kind of look in the mirror and ask yourself, who are you? What the hell did you come here for anyway? Because now is the time to get moving. That's what I feel at this age, I feel a sense of urgency. Like, you better do all the things that you say you want to do, because tomorrow is not promised. Your health is not promised. None of this is promised. So do it today. You don't want to leave here with any regrets. I'm so appreciative again of the women in my life. And the message today is so simple. I just want to remind you and inspire you that you got this. You belong in the room. You have worked really hard to get to wherever you are at this moment. And maybe it's time for you to pivot. Maybe it's time for you to stay right where you are. Maybe it's time for you just to trust the process a little bit longer. But just know that you're going to be okay, whatever that next phase is. And I'm trusting that I'm going to be okay, whatever this next phase is for me. I've been in this place of unfamiliarity, of doubt and confusion. And as I leave practicing medicine as I've known it and really embrace this idea of having an impact and really taking my message on a bigger level, it's scary. I don't really know what that looks like some days, but I'm thankful to you all who have encouraged me and inspired me, and I'm here to do the same for you. Know that we're here to support each other, and it really is about the journey. It is not about the destination. I am entering myself into this new phase, whatever it is. I can tell you that the changes don't stop. The transitions don't stop. The learning doesn't stop. The growth doesn't stop. And each and every year that we get is just another blessing. But it's also meant for us to embrace that and to do the work. So as usual, ladies, stay brilliant, stay beautiful, but most of all, please stay juicy. Come next season, we are going to talk about all the juicy things. I already have a lineup of some lovely ladies that I'll be interviewing. We're going to take it to the next level. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and support the YouTube channel, the Spotify, and to follow on Instagram and all the things. All of these things make a difference for how I'm able to get this message. I appreciate you. Namaste, and I'll see you next time.